The night was pitch black as John Dwyer navigated his 18-wheeler through the dense forest. He had driven this route countless times, but something about tonight felt different. The forest seemed to close in on the narrow road, its trees towering menacingly on either side. The only sounds were the rumble of the truck's engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. John glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 2:15 a.m. He was running late, and the eerie quiet of the forest did nothing to soothe his growing unease. John had been a long-haul trucker for over 15 years. He had seen his fair share of strange things on the road, but he always shrugged them off as tricks of the light or exhaustion-induced hallucinations. Tonight, however, felt different. There was a tangible sense of dread in the air, a feeling that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. As he continued down the winding road, his headlights caught glimpses of movement in the underbrush, but whenever he tried to focus on it, there was nothing there. He turned up the radio, hoping some music would distract him from the unsettling atmosphere. The crackling static filled the cab, and he fumbled with the dial, searching for a clear station. Finally, he found a channel playing a soothing country song and relaxed slightly, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel in time with the music. Without warning, the truck jolted violently as if it had hit something. John's heart raced, and he gripped the wheel tightly, trying to maintain control. The truck skidded to a stop, and he quickly switched on the hazard lights. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the cab to investigate. The forest was eerily silent. John grabbed his flashlight and shone it around the front of the truck, expecting to see a fallen tree limb or a deer. To his surprise, there was nothing there. The road was clear, and there were no signs of damage to the truck. Confused, he walked back to the cab, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. As he climbed back into the truck, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. There, on the windshield, were several bloody handprints. They were smeared and dripping, as if someone had desperately tried to claw their way into the cab. John's hands trembled as he reached for his phone to call for help, but the screen was filled with static and unresponsive. Desperation gnawed at him. He needed to get out of there. He wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans and tried to calm his racing heart. Suddenly, a loud thud came from the back of the truck, followed by a series of scratches. It sounded as if something or someone was trying to get inside. John's instincts screamed at him to drive, but his curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed a tire iron from behind the seat and cautiously stepped out of the cab once more. He made his way to the back of the truck, his flashlight beam dancing nervously over the ground. The night seemed to grow colder and darker with each step. When he reached the rear of the truck, he found the doors securely locked. There were no signs of forced entry, but the scratches continued, now accompanied by a faint, chilling whisper. John's breath came in short gasps as he struggled to make sense of what he was hearing. He pressed his ear against the cold metal of the truck, straining to catch the words. They were indistinct, but seemed to be repeating a single phrase over and over. "Help me! Help me!" His heart pounded in, his chest as he backed away, the tire iron slipping from his grasp and clattering to the ground. He spun around, intending to get back in the cab and drive away as fast as he could, but stopped dead in his tracks. The bloody handprints were back, now covering not just the windshield, but the side windows as well. They seemed to pulse and writhe, as if alive. John's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. He had to be dreaming. He pinched his arm hard, hoping to wake himself up, but the pain only confirmed his grim reality. With shaking hands, he climbed back into the cab and slammed the door shut. He fumbled with the keys, finally managing to start the engine. The truck roared to life, and John hit the gas, speeding down the narrow road. The handprints remained, smearing and dripping as if freshly made. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a figure emerge from the darkness. The whispers grew louder, now clearly audible over the engine noise. "Help me, please." John's rational mind fought to take control. He had to stay focused, keep driving, and get out of this forsaken forest. But the whispers gnawed at his sanity, and the bloody handprints seemed to multiply, covering the entire windshield. He turned on the wipers, but they merely smeared the blood, making it even harder to see. Desperation clawed at him. He needed to find a way to escape this nightmare. His eyes darted to the side of the road, searching for any sign of civilization. The forest seemed endless, a never-ending tunnel of darkness and fear. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road, illuminated by the truck's headlights. John's heart leaped into his throat as he swerved to avoid hitting it. The truck skidded and came to a halt in a ditch. The engine sputtered and died, leaving him in total darkness. The figure slowly approached the cab. John's breath hitched as he watched it draw nearer. It was a woman, her face pale and streaked with blood. Her eyes were hollow, empty voids that seemed to pierce his soul. She reached out a hand, pressing it against the glass, leaving another bloody print. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a haunting echo in the night. John couldn't move, couldn't speak. He was paralyzed by fear, trapped in the cab as the woman's hand slid down the glass, leaving a trail of blood. She disappeared into the darkness, but the whispers remained, growing louder and more desperate. With a surge of adrenaline, John restarted the engine and forced the truck out of the ditch. He sped down the road, not caring about the twists and turns, only wanting to escape. The bloody handprints faded, but the whispers stayed with him, a constant reminder of the terror he had faced. Hours later, he finally emerged from the forest and reached the safety of a truck stop. He pulled into the parking lot and shut off the engine, his hands still trembling. He looked at the windshield, now clear of any blood, and let out a shaky breath. John never drove that route again. He couldn't explain what had happened that night, but the memory of the bloody handprints and the desperate whispers haunted him for the rest of his life. He told his story to a few close friends, but most dismissed it as a figment of his imagination, a product of fatigue and stress. But John knew better. He had seen the handprints, heard the whispers, and felt the cold grip of fear. He knew that somewhere in that forest, something was waiting, and it would never rest until it found help.